Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a poppy bookmark. I was inspired by this new book series I'm reading called From Blood and Ash, and the main character in this book is called Poppy. So I wanted to make a bookmark and I thought that would be a great one to do, so I'm going to teach you how to do this today. So for the materials for this project, you're going to need some red yarn and some black yarn. I'm going to show you in white, but you're going to need red and black. And you're going to need category 1 if you want it to look like mine. That's what I've used here, Hobby. Category 1, Rainbow 8/4, that's what I'm using. And I'm using a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. That's the smaller recommended hook size. So if you have a different kind of yarn, you can take the smaller hook size that you would use with that yarn. You might have to adjust the amount of stitches you have if your yarn weight is bigger. Okay, so you're just going to need those yarns, your hook, a darning needle, and scissors. So let's get started. So we're going to start by making the middle of the flower. We're going to use a magic ring to do that. You can do that however you want to do it, but the way I do it is I'll make a little lasso, stick my finger through there, and then I make a little knot in the lasso. So I'll pull up a loop and then pull that through, and that makes a little little knot right there on the lasso, and then I pull on that, and now I'm ready for my magic circle, and this tail here adjusts the circle. So you can do however you want to do, but we'll start with a ring. Inside the ring I'm going to do 12 single crochets. Okay, so I have my ring of 12 single crochets. It looks like it's a little bit too much, but we need 12 for the second row. So I'm just going to pull that tight a little bit like that. And you see how it closes up. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. Okay, and I'm going to chain 1. Okay, now we're going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch around in the front loop only. So you'll notice that on our stitches, and even that stitch that I joined in, I'm going to have to work into there. There's a front loop and then there's a back loop. Okay, so I'm going to just work into the front loop, but I'm not going to forget the one I just joined into. So I'm going to do that one first. Okay, and I'm going to go all the way around in the front loop only with 1 single crochet. All right. And the reason we're doing it in the front loop only is because we're leaving the back loops available to make our petals. There we go. We should have 12 stitches. I'm just going to count and see if I have 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 stitches. Okay. And then we're going to join into that very first stitch. There we go. And the middle of the flower is done. We're going to cut our yarn. And then pull through to knot that, secure that in place. And on the back here, now that I've done this, I can go ahead and pull that closed. Okay. Now you see here, because of what we did, we have these little bumps around the back. So that's the other half of the stitch that's left. So at this point you're going to want to take your red yarn, and with the red yarn we're going to start making our petals. So I'm going to secure the yarn onto my hook. I'm just going to make a slip knot and hook it on like this. And then I'm going to flip over to the back, and I'm going to find, and this might be hard to see on the black yarn, so That's why I'm showing you with white, but it might also be hard for you to see on the black yarn. But you're just trying to feel for these little loops that you've left back here, and you should have 12 of them. So you're going to hook into that first loop on the back, and you're going to pull through and secure that new color on like that. So I've attached my new color. Then I'm going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. That's my first stitch. I'm going to pull my red tail up, so I'm going to actually crochet over this tail, and what we're going to do is 3 double crochets in the next 3 stitches. Because we have 12 stitches, that means we'll end up with 4 flower petals. So that counts as my first stitch. Yarn over and do 2 more double crochets into the same loop, that's, well, the same stitch or that same back loop that we're working into. So that's what it should look like. I have 3 stitches in the same loop, and now I'll go to the next available loop, and I will do 3 more stitches. Just like that. I have 2 sets of 3. I'm going to yarn over and go to the next one. And now I have 3 sets of 3. So the base of that petal is done. I can cut off that little bit of extra yarn that's secured and already sewn over, so I'll cut that off. And then we'll do a second row on this petal. And to do that, all you're going to do is chain 3, that counts as your first double crochet, turn your work, and do another double crochet in that very first stitch. So you have 2 double crochets in the very first stitch, and you're going to do 2 double crochets in every stitch across, including the chain 3 that you started with. Okay, so we're here at the end, and I have this last real stitch to do, plus I have that chain 3. So just try to get in like anywhere into the chain 3 and do 2 more stitches. And we've made our first petal. Gonna cut that yarn. You want to leave a little bit of a tail because you're going to use the tails at the end. So don't cut your tail too short right here. Okay, and then I'm going to pull the yarn through to lock it in place with a little knot. And if you look on the front side, now you have the base, the beginning of your flower with the one very large flower petal. And so we're going to need to do that 4 times all the way around. So I'm going to do my 4 petals, and then I will come back and show you how it looks. Okay, so I've made my 4 flower petals around, and this is what it's looking like. I also brought the tail from the front end here through to the back, and I sewed it into the back, and I also sewed in my starting circle tail as well. So the only tails that I have left are the tails on the end of each flower petal. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to overlap your petals like this. You're going to want to have the side without the tail under and the side with the tail on top. So the side without the tail is under, the side with the tail is on top. And so you do that all the way around. And then what you're going to do is you're going to insert your crochet hook from the back side, and you're going to go to the petal to the right of the one petal that you want to work in, because what we're going to do is we're going to work those tails into the starting circles so that they kind of curve like this, and it gives it a petally flower shape. So we're going to go 3 stitches over to the beginning of the previous petal. We're going to insert our hook from the back. We're going to take that thread, that tail, and just pull it to the back like that. Okay, then we're going to go to the next one. I'm going to take that tail and the previous petal to the right. I'm going to insert into the base of that first petal, grab the tail and pull it to the back. Okay, so let's do that 2 more times. There. Grab the petal. Well, grab the tail of that petal, pull it to the back. 1 more to go. There we go. And it kind of misses my little circle in the middle up. That's fine, you can shape it back up. Okay. Like that. And then all you're going to do is flip it over on the other side, and you should have these 4 tails coming from the back side. 1 tail for each petal. And all I do is I take the 2 that are diagonally across from each other and I tie them together. And those 2 right there. And I double tie it. Okay. And then I'll take the other 2 tails, here, and I will tie them together. Just check how the shape looks as you're tying them. Okay, so that is how it looks once you've tied them together. You've got your flower like that. Okay, and now we're going to make the tail piece here that you see on the back of this flower. And the first part of that is making the back part. So we make a little tiny circle to cover up this back part. And then we make the tail, and then we make it back, and we sew it on. Okay, so let's start that. Okay, so now we're going to make the tail. And we're just going to make a piece that is big enough to cover this little back section. And so I went ahead and cut my tails short here. I didn't sew them in because you don't need to. We're going to stick that piece on top. So we're going to make a magic ring. Do 10 single crochets into the ring. Pull the tail a little bit. And then slip stitch into the very first stitch. Okay, so slip stitch into the first stitch, and now you have that ring. You can go ahead and close it up. Great. And then from here, you're just going to do a chain long enough for whatever book it is that you want to use this for. So I usually just do a bunch of chains, and then I look and see how long it is. Now in this particular case, I'm going to kind of just mimic it after the one I've already made. Okay, just a couple more chains, and you can just lay yours inside of your book to make sure that it's long enough. And at the end of the chain here, there's going to be just a few extra stitches that we'll use to connect this this stopper piece. Okay, and once you've done that, then you're going to just slip stitch all the way back up. So once I've slip stitched all the way back up, I'll meet you guys back. Okay, so I'm back. I slip stitched all the way up my bookmark tail, and now I'm just gonna leave myself. I'm gonna cut the yarn and leave myself a long enough tail to actually sew this in there. Okay, and then I'm gonna just pull that through. So now I have a tail here that I'm going to use to sew this onto the back. And before I do that, I'm just going to quickly sew in this back tail. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back and we will connect this to the flower. Great. So now I'm going to sew this back piece onto the back of the flower. So we're going to we're going to thread our darning needle. Okay. And then I'm going to take my flower and just kind of line it up back there. You see how that just fits right over there. And I'm going to stuff in your little bits that you had left, if you left bits like I did. I'm going to take this first stitch. So I'm going to go in that first stitch, and at the same time I go in that first stitch, I'm just going to go under some stitches from the back of a petal. Okay, and then I'm going to come back up and just go straight back into that stitch. And then on the next stitch, I'm going to go under, grab a few, put myself through the petals as well, the back of the red of the petals. And then I'm just going to come straight back through. And again, so it's just like in and out, and you make sure that you cover the whole back of the flower as you're going. Go into the next stitch, grab a couple of threads from here, that. So it's not anything super technical about what I'm doing. I'm just trying to cover the whole back of the flower as I sew this on. So however you can get it done. Turn it as I go. Okay, and once that's done, we just need to hide this tail, so we can kind of just like run it up under the back piece a couple of times, different directions, so it doesn't come out. And I have a sharp darning needle as well. It helps to have a sharp one when you're doing stuff like that. Okay, so now that part's done. You can shape up your flower a little bit. Should look something like this. Now that you've done that bit and you've got your tail, and now we just need to make the piece to go on the end here with the red yarn. So let's do that next. Okay, so now we're going to work on this little stopper piece that's at the end of the tail. So we're going to start that by doing another flat circle, and we're actually going to do double crochets into the ring, the starting ring this time. So I'm going to do my starting ring. I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to work 12 double crochets into the ring. Okay, so that's 12. Pull your ring closed. And we're going to ignore the chain 2 at the start, and we're going to slip stitch into the first real stitch like that. And then we're going to close up our ring by pulling it tight. Now to start round 2, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets into the same stitch that we slip stitched into. So we'll just do 2 there, and you're just going to do 2 stitches all the way around in every stitch around, and then meet me back. Okay, so now that we've done 2 stitches in every one around, it looks like this. If it's curling up a little bit like a bowl, that's fine, because we weren't trying to make a flat circle anyway. But even if it is pretty flat, what we're about to do now is going to pull it in. Okay, so we're going to take this little tail piece that we made, and we're going to lay it inside that gap between the 2 rounds. We're just going to lay that in there. And we're going to connect. We're going to slip stitch into the top of the first real stitch, and you bring this kind of down to the middle right there. So you have this little piece here that's coming up, and we're just going to pinch that in place for now, and we're going to slip stitch around. Okay, and once you get back to the start, what you can actually do is just slip stitch down into that white piece like that. Kind of let everything twist out a bit, and just rearrange everything. Okay, so now you're kind of inside that white piece. So what you're going to do is actually slip stitch through the white piece of the tail, and this will kind of secure it into place as well. So you're going through the 2 bits of fabric, and it's making a nice little interesting detail there until you get to the middle, and then you go through the middle of your circle like that, and we're going to cut a tail, pull it through, and then what you can do is bring your hook through that middle piece and bring the tail back to the back. Okay, so now we have starting tail and that tail there, and you just need to sew those 2 tails together, and you have a nice little interesting, I don't know, leaf-like, tear-like piece at the end. So I'm just going to take a second to sew in my tails. Okay, so the tails have been sewn in, and this is what the finished bookmark looks like. So let's take one of our books and just have a look how it looks. Okay, so we'll stick that down in there, and you see I made it a tiny bit short, but it still works. And it comes out the top like this, and the bottom stopper sticks out the bottom like that. Right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial for this poppy flower bookmark, and let me know how you liked it in the comments below, or if you have any other suggestions of things you'd like to see, I'd be more than willing to do those. Have a great day.